She wasn't looking for drama. She wasn't chasing some long-lost relative. It was just a cheap DNA kit she ordered online, for fun. But when the results came back, her entire identity unraveled. Because buried inside that data, beneath the percentages and ancestry breakdowns, was a secret so twisted, so unthinkable, it made her question her own existence. What if the man you called your brother was actually your father? What if your entire childhood was built on a lie, and everyone knew but you? This isn't fiction. This happened. And once the truth came out, there was no going back. Hannah Monroe wasn't supposed to exist. Her mother, Marlene, had been told it was impossible. Years of failed fertility treatments, miscarriages, and late-night sobbing had hardened her. At 39, the doctors gave her a final verdict. No more chances. But just months later, Marlene was pregnant. No IVF, no explanation, just a miracle. The small Midwestern town they lived in whispered about God's grace. Neighbors dropped off casseroles. Church ladies knitted baby blankets. People said things like, "She's heaven sent, and God's timing is perfect." But inside the Monroe home, things were off. Hannah grew up with much older siblings. Her sister Grace was 11 years older. Her brother David was practically a second father at 16 years her senior. David wasn't around often. He left for college when Hannah was just a toddler. But when he visited, there was something about the way he interacted with her, overly affectionate, yet strangely tense. He always brought her trinkets from wherever he'd been, keychains, snow globes, even a tiny glass elephant she still kept on her shelf. He called her kiddo in a voice that always felt a little too heavy, and every time he hugged her goodbye, he held on just a little too long. As a child, she brushed it off, but in hindsight, it felt like guilt. There were other signs too, quiet arguments behind closed doors, her mother's tearful glances when David was mentioned, her father's cold silence whenever David came home. No one ever said it out loud, but Hannah always felt like she didn't quite fit. Like she was an accident no one could explain. Or worse, like she was the product of something no one dared speak about. And deep down, she always sensed that David knew more than he let on. But she wouldn't understand just how much until decades later, when a DNA test blew everything apart. It started with a joke. Hannah's best friend Rachel had always been obsessed with Ancestry kits. One evening, over wine and true crime documentaries, Rachel tossed her a 23andMe box and grinned. "Come on, let's see if you're 1% royalty, or cursed," she teased. Hannah rolled her eyes and laughed. "Fine, but don't blame me if I turn out to be related to pirates. It was meant to be harmless." She swabbed, she sealed, she forgot about it. Weeks passed, until one quiet Tuesday morning the email arrived. "Your DNA results are ready." She opened it while sipping coffee, expecting to scroll through a chart of boring ethnic percentages. Irish, English, Scandinavian, nothing surprising. Until she saw it. David Monroe, parent-child match. Her coffee cup hit the table with a thud. Her stomach dropped. What? No, that couldn't be right. She hit refresh, again and again. But the match didn't change. David, her brother, listed as her biological parent. Not uncle, not cousin. Parent. She clicked into the shared DNA segments. 3,500 centimorgans, across 50-plus segments. The same kind of match she saw when Googling examples of father-daughter results. She felt the blood drain from her face. There had to be a glitch, a database error, maybe someone with the same name. But there was only one David Monroe linked to her tree. His photo even showed up. And worse, Marlene, her mother, also appeared in the results. But not as a full match. As a half match. Her mind reeled. That made no sense. Unless her brother David was actually her father. Unless her mother was also somehow not her full mother. The walls of her world began to close in. Hannah sat there frozen, the soft hum of the fridge suddenly sounding like a scream. This wasn't just a mistake. This was something darker. A secret so big, her entire existence was about to collapse under the weight of it. And she hadn't even confronted her family yet. Hannah didn't sleep that night. She paced, she Googled, she cried. She stared at the DNA chart until the numbers burned behind her eyes. How could David be her father? How could Marlene, her mother, be only a half match? And then a more terrifying question began to form. Who was her real mother? By morning, her hands were shaking. She called Marlene. "I need to talk," she said, her voice dry.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
They met in the kitchen. Same kitchen she'd grown up in. Same floral wallpaper. Same worn-down chairs. But suddenly, nothing felt familiar anymore. Marlene sat across from her, mug in hand, eyes tired. "You're scaring me, Hannah." Hannah opened her laptop, turned the screen. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The match said it all. David Monroe, parent. Marlene's hands trembled. She didn't deny it. Didn't flinch. She just stared at the screen, like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. Then she whispered, "I was going to tell you." Hannah's heart pounded. "Tell me what?" "That my brother is actually my father. That I'm..." "What? Some family accident? Some mistake?" "No," Marlene choked, tears building. "You're not a mistake. You're the only good thing that came from the worst night of my life." That sentence hit like a punch. The room went silent except for the ticking wall clock. It ticked like a countdown to something terrible. "I didn't want it to happen," Marlene said finally. "I didn't ask for it." "What do you mean?" Hannah whispered. Marlene looked down, swallowed hard, and said the words that would forever destroy the girl who once believed in miracles. "It was David. I was drunk. I didn't remember. Not at first. And by the time I realized..." She broke down, sobbing. But Hannah couldn't cry. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't even blink. Because her own mother had just told her that her brother was her father, and her mother was a victim. But that wasn't the whole truth. Not yet. And Hannah would soon learn. There was still another secret no one had said out loud. After that conversation, Hannah didn't go home. She drove for hours, past the edge of town, through the empty country roads that once felt comforting. Now everything looked different, like the world had been repainted with betrayal. She stayed in a motel 2 towns over, just her, a duffel bag, and the cold glow of her laptop screen. For 2 days, she barely slept. She reread every DNA match, every centimorgan, every name. And then something strange caught her eye. In her 23andMe matches, beneath the close family section, was a name she didn't recognize. Madeline Hayes, estimated relationship, half-sibling. Hannah's blood ran cold. Another sibling? How? She clicked Madeline's profile. Madeline was 28, only a few years older than her. And unlike most DNA users, Madeline had uploaded a profile picture. It showed a smiling woman with deep hazel eyes and a sharp jawline. Hannah stared, then zoomed in. That smile. It looked like her own. Not just similar, identical. She opened her phone, pulled up a selfie from last week, placed them side by side. Same eyes, same dimple, same crooked front tooth. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a blood connection. She messaged Madeline. "Hi. This might sound strange, but I think we're related. My results say you're my half-sister. I was born in 1997. I'm trying to understand my biological background. Have you ever heard of a David Monroe?" She stared at the blinking cursor, chest pounding, before hitting send. An hour later, a reply came. "David Monroe?" "Yes, he was my bio dad, but I never met him. He was 19 when my mom got pregnant and disappeared." "Why?" That's when the puzzle pieces slammed together like a thunderclap. David had fathered another child, the same year Marlene got pregnant, and both mothers were teenagers. It wasn't just one horrifying event, it was a pattern. David hadn't made a mistake, he had a history. And Hannah had just uncovered the next breadcrumb. But there was more, because the final truth about her birth wasn't in a DNA chart. It was buried in someone's memory, waiting to be dragged into the light. Hannah returned home 2 days later. She didn't speak to Marlene, couldn't. Instead, she went to the attic. It was dusty and cramped, filled with childhood boxes and Christmas lights that hadn't been touched in years. But she wasn't looking for decorations. She was looking for the one person who might have known the truth, her sister, Grace. Grace had passed away 6 years earlier, a car accident on a rainy night. Tragic, sudden, no real closure. But before her death, Grace had been different, distant, nervous around David. And she'd left behind journals, dozens of them. Hannah remembered because Marlene never threw them out. She found them buried beneath a box of old coats, floral-covered notebooks with stickers still on the spine. She flipped through one, skimming until a line froze her. Sometimes I think Hannah is more my daughter than my sister, but if I say that out loud, I'll be the one locked up. Hannah's hands trembled. She kept reading. I saw it, that night. Mum crying on the bathroom floor, David stumbling out the door. I was only 11, but I knew something happened, something wrong. Mum told me never to bring it up again, but I couldn't forget it. Especially when she started showing, especially when she didn't explain anything. And now Hannah's here. A miracle, they say. But when I look at her, I don't see God. I see a secret everyone agreed to bury. Hannah stopped breathing. This wasn't just a mother and son entangled in trauma. This was a family conspiracy, a decision, a silence. Her sister had witnessed something unspeakable and was forced to carry it. Hannah wondered how many others knew, how many had kept the truth from her, smiling through birthdays and Christmas dinners. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a betrayal wrapped in love. And now Hannah couldn't unknow it. She sat there in the dark attic, clutching the journal like a lifeline, knowing there was still one person left to confront. David, the man who was once her brother, and was never going to admit the truth, willingly. He lived 2 hours away now, quiet suburban neighborhood, white fence, wife, kids, a perfect life on the outside. Hannah didn't call first. She didn't trust herself to speak without shaking or screaming or both. She just drove, through a fog that matched the one in her chest. When he opened the door, David's face froze. Not in surprise, but something closer to recognition, like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Hannah," he said, cautious, careful. "What's wrong?" She pushed past him, walked straight into the house like it still belonged to her. He didn't stop her. In the living room, she turned. "I know." David blinked. She held up her phone, showing the DNA results, the match with Madeline, the journal pages she'd photographed. His face paled. "I know what you did, and I need you to say it." He sat slowly, hands clasped, staring at the floor like it might save him. "It was one night," he whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "That's all you have to say?" Her voice cracked. "You raped Mom." He flinched at the word but didn't deny it. "I was drunk. So was she. We were both lost. Dad had just left. She was falling apart." "David, she was your mother." His eyes filled with tears. "I know." Silence, long and thick. Then he added, "I loved you like a sister because I didn't know how else to love you." She felt nauseous. "You had another daughter, David, Madeline. You abandoned her. You left this trail of trauma and walked away from all of it." "I was 19 when that happened," he said, voice hollow, "and I thought I could outrun it." He looked up at her then. "But I never stopped being afraid of this day." Hannah stared back at the man who had once seemed like a hero, a protector. Now she saw him clearly, not as a brother or a father, but as a coward in denial of the damage he left behind. Still, there was one thing she hadn't said. Not yet. Because the truth didn't end here. There was one final secret waiting to be exposed. Weeks passed. The DNA matches, the confrontation, the journal. It all circled in Hannah's head like a storm she couldn't escape. She cut off contact with David. She barely spoke to Marlene. But one question still haunted her. Who was her biological mother? The DNA results had shown Marlene as only a half match. So if Marlene wasn't her biological mother, who was? And why had no one ever told her? Then late one night, Hannah got a message from Madeline. "Hey, I asked my mom about David. She broke down, said he wasn't just some teen fling, said she got pregnant in high school and dropped out, said her parents made her give up the baby because it wasn't right. She said she gave birth in the fall of 1997, but the hospital said the baby went into foster care." Hannah froze. Fall of 1997, her birth year. Her hands trembled as she typed, "What was your mum's name?" The reply came instantly, "Charlotte Hayes." Hannah's world tilted. She remembered the name, a girl Marlene used to mentor at church, a teenage runaway who disappeared shortly after her pregnancy. It all fit. The dates, the silence, the shame. Marlene hadn't been able to get pregnant because she hadn't. She'd adopted Hannah, quietly, secretly, probably thinking she was protecting her from the horror of her origins. But she hadn't known the full truth, that David was the father of the child she'd brought home and raised. Hannah wasn't just the product of a crime. She was the child of two victims, one silenced by shame, the other by survival. And now she had to choose. Would she carry this legacy of silence, or would she break it? Today, Hannah is 28. She changed her last name, started therapy, reached out to Charlotte, her biological mother. They're rebuilding something. Not a fairy tale, not a fix, but the truth. And sometimes that's the most powerful thing of all. What would you do if a DNA test revealed your entire life was built on lies? Would you dig deeper or destroy the test and walk away? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget, this is just one of many stories unfolding here on Unfolded Enigmas. Subscribe, stay curious, stay questioning.